I've got some WW1 sound effects loaded onto a sound unit that I can play on the layout. What I'm going to show you now is a Static Grass Applicator. This one costs £17. It's a converted fly swatter with a sieve on the end of it. It boosts up a 3-volt battery charge to a much higher voltage to create a static flow, and then the grass flock that you sprinkle on your layout, this will be my layout in a minute, will then stand on end. What you must do when you press the yellow button and get it all charged up after you've finished is just discharge it like this. If you don't, you might get that shock, and you don't really want that, so just be aware of that. So you get some neat PVA glue and you put that onto your model. I'm going to do this area here with a little clump of static grass. Now you can actually make little weedy patches that you pull off if you put this on a bit of cling film or plastic and peel it off after. You then get some grass flock. This is 4mm, I think. It might be larger actually. And you put that into the applicator. Let's just break it down a bit like that. Good. You then get a needle or a pin, something like that, on the other end of the wire, and this end has to go into the glue. And now when we press the button, we hold it fairly close and tap it. It should put some grass onto this area here and it should stand up. So we've got to do it quite a lot for quite a long while and hold it fairly close as well. Doesn't matter if you short out on the pin here, make that sort of spark noise, doesn't matter. There's my sound effect still going. Now you can keep going, we need to do even more really, but even now you should be able to see that the grass is standing up. So already we're getting some vertical static grass. That's how you use one of these things. Short that out, always remember to do that, and now it's safe to back away. Now I'm not going to do much static grass on this particular layout. It's very barren, but I'm going to try and just add a little bit. I've also put some barbed wire on the layout now in a couple of locations, so that looks really nice. And this particular character here is the only one with a bayonet on the end of his rifle, so he is representing my grandfather. The layout isn't lit properly at the moment, but you can see that the rubble is now glued very nicely in place. And also on this particular building, see, it leaves a nice footprint where they go. Some of the rubble is in the building and some of it is on the layout. Anyhow, on this particular building there's a sort of advertising board that's very hard to read now. It almost looks like it says love, but in fact I've written LCVC, that's Lawrence Calvertfilm VC, in remembrance of my grandfather. But that's a very subtle in thing on this layout. In fact, when it's there you probably won't really see it. Can't see it very well, but I know it's there, and so do you now. Now I know it's a bit random, but right in the middle of nowhere I'm going to stick a sunflower growing up, and this represents life returning to the area. A little bit of colour in an otherwise drab scene. We have got the bulrushes as well, so some more life, but one solitary sunflower in the middle of nowhere. I'm producing an Airfix Mk1 tank. Now I'm not going to go through all of this, but I'm using textured paint to put on mud on the tracks. So that is my Male Mk1 tank now ready to put on the layout. So that is the final position I would like for the Mk1 tank. Now here's an interesting thing. I've got a Smokey Joe which I'm going to convert into a Baldwin 040 and my Jinty which I'm going to convert into a Kerr Stuart. Now I've put these on the layout, and it's very important to put the actual locomotives on the layout that you're going to use, I've found, because the performance characteristics of the motor is such that each one will perform differently, and so you need to put the actual locomotive on the layout. It's my sunflower and barbed wire. Let's just go under the layout. And here is the electronics, and when they're operating they flicker red. So I'm just going to adjust these now. This one is the speed and this one is the wait time. Now these locomotives, because I'm doing standard gauge, it allowed me to buy quite cheap locomotives, and I'm trying to model these particular ones. Now Smokey Joe I'm going to convert into something like Baldwin 040, and it's reasonably near. I mean, the front of the boiler there is cylindrical and Smokey Joe is, and I need to add a few more details on the roof, and I need to add a rear panel on the rear. And the Jinty, well, it's as near as I could get to a Kerr Stuart. It's not that near really, but it is similar. They're both 060s and they have similar details here. It's just the proportions are slightly different. Now you can use other mild abrasives other than SIF to get the numbers off. You can use T-cut. You can use a rubbing compound. As you use these things, they will, now it's coming off, they will polish up the surface, so you end up with a slightly shiny area. So once you've applied your new number, you then need to apply matte varnish all over just to dull everything up to the same level again. We extended the length of the runs, and now the locomotives are both quite happily moving around. The buildings are puffing out their smoke. It's quite a subtle effect. It is happening though. That's quite nice. I've also installed my Sopwith camel. And there it is. It's just a piece of piano wire, and the model is literally placed upon it. Its centre of gravity is where the wings are, so it happens to stay there. I can knock it, it stays on